where we are a much different barbecue place where the other guys use gas-assisted or electric-assisted pits. We use straight wood outside in the elements, rain, sleet, snow, hail. It does not matter. It can be negative 40 degrees outside. We got some heat source right there, and we're going to be out there cooking.
Welcome to the Pitmasters Podcast. I'm Rusty Monson.
I'm Anthony Lujan.
Today we're sitting down with Benji from Benji's Barbecue Pit Shack in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we're going to talk a little bit about how he got into business and stick burners. So stay tuned.
Yo, what up, Rusty?
What's up, man?
Not much, just chilling here at Benji's Barbecue Shack.
So we're live in Benji's Barbecue Shack right now. So this restaurant's open, so you might hear a little clickety-clack in the background, but
some music.
Some music.
Saying, oh my goodness, this is the best barbecue. You never know when it's going to happen.
So we like to bring in Benji. He owns the place. Say hey, Benji.
Hey, what's happening?
So we're going to talk to him a little bit about where he got started and all that. And, well, let's get going. Where did you get started?
Yeah, so I started back when I was 7 years old, back in Columbus, Georgia, with my mother and my great-granny in the kitchen. My mother was the one who taught me everything about the pit and also making sauces and all that. My granny taught me everything on the stove.
Dang.
Nice. We tried some of that sauce yesterday. Was it the mustard-based sauce?
Yeah, mustard-based, yeah.
Yeah, that was very delicious.
Yeah, it was. I used it on everything. I was doing my bread in it and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So So how did you come from Georgia to Utah?
So my mother, she was a physician recruiter for the VA. We moved out here in 2003. We were traveling around the world, Alaska previously, right before we got here, and then we settled in Salt Lake City. But she was a physician recruiter up at the VA.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So where did the barbecue come in?
Well, for me, it was, I've always cooked. In 2012, I was cooking at a friend's house for Mother's Day, and they told me, man, some good stuff, and why haven't you ever thought about selling it? And so me and my friend at the time, we were bankers, and he said, let's just pick up a side hustle. We picked up the side hustle, and it's now a main hustle.
Nice. So we're actually in your place right now, but there's 4 businesses in here right now.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So we have King's Treats, which is all of our scraps that we use. Here in the shack, we drop all the bones from ribs and any scraps really into the tables, and we take them out, smoke them for a number of hours, so we're able to sell them for profit for the dogs. Our soul food kitchen as well. That's where we do all of our fried foods. LLE Soul Food Kitchen. Just kind of a in remembrance of my great granny LLE. I created that kitchen. She put me down on the stove and in the oven and stuff. And my butcher shop is another piece to my business where we sell high-grade beef imported from Australia, 9+ Wagyu, all the way down to 6.7, MS 6.7 also on the scale, and our lowest grade being USDA Prime. And then we have our deli where we sell all of our barbecued meats, the brisket, burning, pulled pork, ribs, all hot and ready to go.
And it's a 24-hour joint too.
24/7. Yeah, we go. Our manufacturing facility here, we close December 20th through January 31st. But any other locations that we have will obviously be open year round.
Very nice. So did you have any culinary background, or did you just jump into this and look for a business model? What did you do to get the business rolling?
Well, I actually was a banker for 10 years, and my last year as a banker, I actually got fired. And when I got fired, it was kind of that aha moment of like, man, you need to go ahead and do something with yourself instead of working for the other people. And when that came, I had these skills that I've always had from cooking and barbecuing and all of that. And when the time came, I said, man, I'm not going back to being a banker. And so I just went ahead and just spearheaded this barbecue thing and went all the way to the top, as much as I can do.
And how long have you been in this location for?
We've been here 22 weeks today.
Oh, nice. And you were in Tooele before?
Yeah, we were based out of Tooele. We were wholesaling and manufacturing out of Tooele prior to coming here.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what you guys cook on, which is kind of the basis of the podcast today, and that is stick burners. And we were out there yesterday looking at your pits, and you got 2 big old stick burner.
Yeah.
So how did those come about?
Well, my main stick burner, I picked it up probably 6 years ago. That's the little black one that we use. And That one's just a offset regular stick burning. You know, there's no reverse flow or anything in it. But that one that we cook on, and we cook anywhere from 300 to 350 at all times. Our reverse flow one, the much larger one, is 200 to 225. Obviously, as I told you guys yesterday, that thermostat hasn't been regulated all the way, and so we kind of try to stay between 200 and 225, and it still gives us the same product that we would get out of the stick burner and the smaller one at the 300 to 350.
So you're cooking your briskets hot and fast. You said you got those done in about 5 hours.
Yeah, 5 hours. 5 hours on the very high end. We try to stay in between 3.5 to 4 hours is where we like to be, but at times, you know, if weather permits, you know, sometimes we can go as far as 5 hours.
And speaking of brisket, you said you're only cooking prime here too.
Only USDA prime, nothing, no choice, no select or commodity grade. We'll also cook Wagyu. We do MS8 Wagyu whenever we cook our brisket. That's Wagyu, but that's the highest grade of brisket that we're able to get, that MS8. And we have, obviously for the butcher shop, we can get our ribeyes and all that stuff for 9+.
Nice. So when you jumped into your stick burner, did you have any experience with it, or did you was it just learning on the spot?
Well, it's very similar to if you know how to run any type of charcoal wood pit, it's gonna be very similar. You know, you just have to figure out your air intake and also your amount of fuel that you're gonna be using as far as wood. So if you're not familiar with setting fires, and you know it's gonna be challenging to get a stick burner going.
So I do charcoal, and then I put wood on top of it, and that's how I roll. So
yeah, that works too. You know, that
I can kind of sit and forget that. You're telling me yesterday you're putting one on every
45 minutes.
45 minutes, and so if you don't, what happens?
The temperature will drop drastically.
And how hard is it to get it back up?
Like when it gets below 200 degrees, it becomes very challenging when we didn't have to bring out a torch to light the wood up at that point. But if we can get down, you know, if it drops down to 225, we're able to just toss more wood on it. It take about 5 minutes to get back up to 300 to 350.
Okay. And so you keep those things rolling constantly.
24/7.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. The only time it stops is when it has to get cleaned, which is once a week. We'll go through and clean it really deep and burn everything off. And
so I just got to, let's say, you know, someone out there, they're looking to get a stick burner. And then what advice would you have to them to get started? Is there a certain kind that you would get going in?
Well, you know, the thing I always recommend for anybody that wants to start with a stick burner, always start with an offset first. Offset to get you familiar with then understanding how a stick burner works, because most stick burners, especially the ones that are made down in Georgia and Florida, they 100%, majority of them none of them are reverse flow. Once you get your reverse flows, the reverse flows are very easy once you learn a stick burner, and after you get your stick burner. But yeah, start off with an offset so you can learn about how much wood to add or how much charcoal to add to get your fire built. And then once you go from there, I think it's pretty simple.
So you start your fires with a torch, or do you do with charcoal?
Charcoal, and it depends. If we're out of charcoal, we'll then use a torch. But propane and gas, I try not to use ever. I try to stick to charcoal to light my fires, or just try to do it naturally with our wood. The other thing that we do, we have starter wood that we also make out of our drippings from our meat. We'll soak all of the wood in the grease and light that on fire, and it's an accelerant, similar to lighter fluid.
And flavor.
And flavor. Yeah.
Tasty lighter fluid.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would use lighter fluid if that was the case. I'd put on other things too, like my omelets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we use that grease for everything that we get out of there for that wood, for sure, to keep that fire just moving, and it stays really hot.
Very nice. So is your firebox, is it insulated, or just single gauge steel? Or?
Yeah, so we're actually, single gauge steel is where our firebox is on the current pits that we have. Our future ones that we'll build will have insulated pits where it'll be probably a 14 gauge steel that we'll use, insulated with a 2700 degree rating fiber blanket.
Nice.
And so you're going hot and fast. Have you always gone hot and fast? Or have you ever been kind of a low and slow guy ever?
You know, I've tried low and slow before. I've tried all different ways. In Georgia, it's hot and fast, pretty much everything. You see people flipping ribs nonstop. You know, when you go to barbecue places, it's really hot and fast. And but low and slow, you know, I've tried it to see how it goes, and man, it just takes so much time, and there's so much to do at low. When it's hot and fast, man, you don't even have to mop if the temperature's right, and the humidity's right. You don't have to do anything. Just hot and fast, pull them off.
So you're mopping throughout the cook. How often are you opening the lids and bringing them back down?
So first 2.5 hours, it doesn't even open, Like on ribs, the first hour and a half, it won't open at all. We need to make sure that the seasoning and everything cooks on there. And then once about an hour and a half in, we'll flip, cook it another 30 minutes on the back, and then we'll start to mop. So about 2 hours in, we're mopping for a solid 30, 45 minutes, and we're pulling.
So what's your recovery rate on when you have your pit open for that long?
So let's say, for instance, I open the mop. It'll typically drop, if I'm at 325, I'll drop to about 240 by the time I close it. And then the recovery time is probably about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a big old pit. So
yeah.
It's a huge, lot of airspace.
Yeah,
that's actually 5 minutes seems like not a lot of time at all to recover.
Yeah, I remember one time I was showing this guy how to light a stick burner, and he's like, yeah, I have a Traeger. And he's like, man, my Traeger can't even get up, but I can get my stick burner up in 10 minutes. Full temp.
Same thing. I open that, it's dropping.
Yeah,
50 degrees, and I got about 10 minutes on that, getting it back up.
Yeah, no, I can pop that thing back up real quick.
But I usually don't check things. I'm a set it and forget it kind of guy.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah,
put it in the Lord's hands, and then I open it, and that's the food.
Yeah.
So usually we ask all of our people, what is your favorite thing to cook?
Man, my most favorite thing to cook are ribs. Pork and chicken is that's a staple down in Georgia and in the Southeast. I just barely learned brisket, 8 years ago when I first started, because here in Utah, everybody loves brisket, And so I said, well, it's something I have to learn to be able to be successful here. And so we do a really good brisket too.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, brisket is off the chain.
Had that for breakfast.
So baby backs or spares, or does it matter?
Oh, spares all day, man. We love fat ribs. If they ain't fat, then they ain't going on our pit.
Nice.
We cook whole pigs, whole hogs on our pits. We do it all, but we love, the fatter, the better. Nice.
We talked a little bit yesterday about this project that you're thinking about bringing up with, what do you call it, Juneteenth?
Yeah, Juneteenth. So next year, we're going to attempt, which, as long as everything's all together, we'll have it done. But Juneteenth for African Americans is a celebration of just our culture, for a whole entire week. And during the teens of June, we're in a special where we're going to attempt to see if we can get 60 hogs out, the entire Salt Lake Valley, and whoever wants to come, and then their surrounding cities, counties, whatever can come, and it's all going to be for free.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just something back to the community, give whole hog cooks for free.
So let me get this right. You're going to feed Salt Lake Valley.
Salt Lake Valley, Utah County, Utah Valley, Weber County, Weber Valley, whatever we can,
Utah, straight up.
Utah.
Everyone but Idaho.
Right, yeah. If you want to come from Idaho, you can come too.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. Okay. I guess
Idaho, whoever's in town can
I guess
come
you
through.
can come Idaho.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all good. Idaho can roll too.
Going into the culture part, I see you have a story up on your wall here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this story talks about heavily on how barbecue made it. Most importantly, where barbecue comes from in the United States. The reason for the article, no pun intended, but with Texas barbecue, and there's Kansas City, there's Memphis, there's Carolina, and Georgia's never really mentioned a ton in barbecue, unless it's down in in the Southeast, those ruling states right there of barbecue. But the reason for the story is just really give people a really big picture and understand where barbecue comes from. It wasn't at all something that was made up outside of what the slaves did when we got here. That's the only way of cooking that they knew. And the article talks about how Texas eventually got barbecue in 1860. But it's mostly there to let people know, like, hey, Texas, I have a lot of friends and I love them. But, barbecue does not originate from Texas.
I agree.
No, it's true. I mean, a lot of those places came a lot later. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people understand is that Texas for a long time wasn't even part of the United States.
Exactly.
Right.
You had the whole South that was mostly generating the barbecue before it kind of spread throughout the nation. And
correct,
like you mentioned yesterday, Texas at that time was Mexico.
Was Mexico, yeah. Yeah, 1860 is when barbecue made it to Texas, and we're at 1780s in Georgia already, and we still got a nice head start on, 80 years before. Mm-hmm. We were able to have barbecue started. But, it eventually got to Texas, and, today, you got your powerhouses like Franklin's and all those guys out of Texas that do really well.
So in Texas, it's a real salt pepper based, real heavy on that. What's the difference between like a Texas and a Georgia? Because it feels like they're kind of similar. Yeah, but I think Texas has that heavy salt flavor. What would the Georgia flavor be like?
Yeah, so down south, Georgia, the Carolinas, we use obviously mustard and vinegar is like when we do our sauces, but pepper flake, garlic for sure, chili powder, and a little bit of salt. So we mix it up a little bit more. We get a little bit more flavor out. When you're cooking hot and fast, salt and pepper doesn't do the trick.
A lot of my friends from Georgia who cook, they use a lot of peach wood too. That's kind of
peach wood is nice. It's very challenging to find peach wood out here unless you go to northern Utah. But peach wood mixed with hickory is a really nice flavor. I
have to try that. I've never tried that before.
Oh, it's really delicious.
And you cook on hickory here.
Hickory. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll sometimes switch. Well, we do strictly only hickory, but whenever we are, like right now, we're going through a crisis with hickory because our supplier out of the Midwest is really low. We typically go through about a cord to 2 cords a week here at Benji's in hickory wood. And I called my supplier 2 days ago and I said, hey, man, I need some wood. We're running really low. And he said, we're out. And so would it be probably another 3-4 weeks? And so our alternative is always either apple or peach.
So when you make that switch from hickory to apple or peach, are you seeing a color change throughout your cook? Or
well, we always try to before we won't ever completely run out of hickory. We'll keep some on hand just so we're able to use the apple as a fuel source and the hickory as a smoke. So then it slows down at least how fast we're using the hickory.
Nice. So your end result, just because we kind of cook a little bit to color on the competition side, are you seeing a color change when you switch into woods? Because from what I've seen a little bit is cherry will give you more of that deeper mahogany color to your meats.
Yeah, your apple, well, we keep hickory in the rotation. So for us, the only thing you'll see different, is you'll notice a slight change in flavor. That's really it. It's not going to be, we keep that hickory just so it builds a nice, real good, deep bark, on the food, and so we always, like right now we're running the pits. We have 5 logs of apple to 1 hickory. But when we normally run, we'll run 3 logs of hickory, and that does the trick too.
Yeah, this is one of the few places, well, I've been to a couple barbecue joints here in Utah, and you really focus on that meat smoke flavor.
Oh,
that's
big
your
time.
Primary, because if you're a guy like me who really likes the meat to shine, that's what you focus on here, I noticed. Yeah,
so, as we talked about it yesterday, you're not supposed to put your meat on the pit cold, never, ever, 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 to be able to absorb that smoke. And if you do put it on cold, you have to, at least, an hour in, it's up to a nice temperature where it'll be able to take in that smoke a lot better than if it's, cold. So otherwise, if you're letting your meat sit at room temp before you throw it on, you season obviously when it's cold and you trim when it's cold, but then let it rest for an hour at room temp or an ambient temperature outside if you're, in competition or anything like that. And then you throw it on and make sure your wood is ready for smoke whenever you throw that meat on at that temp.
At room temperature. If not, you suggest keeping it on there before you put the wood on for at least an hour.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see, that's kind of funny because I'd always buried my wood into my charcoal, and I thought it was I know it's because, first of all, for me using a barrel, it's so that fire doesn't come up, and you don't have these flare-ups. But at the same time, when they're down there, it doesn't get quite to it yet. It gives me a minute to get my meat to temperature.
Yeah. Yeah, even same when we use our barrels too, in the past, we decommission those barrels now because they can't keep up with the demand, but it was the same thing. We would always bury the wood under, because after the coal's lit, it's going to take probably 45 minutes for it to smoke to an hour to smoke up. And by that time, your meat's ready to take the smoke in.
And I think burying your wood too prevents a flare up as well too.
Absolutely.
If you put it right on the top, then you're just going to have a hot fire.
You'll not only just have a hot fire, but if the wood burns out, then guess what? You have no heat source either.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big one for me, is because when I would pull it off, it would just boom, my barrel a second. That thing right. It's like hallelujah, and it's like and it becomes a blowtorch. So how many meats you cook in a day here? Like, let's talk about brisket. How many briskets you cook usually?
Oh man, I know last night overnight we cooked 18. We go through anywhere between, it depends. Like today we'll probably go through around 30 30 today, and then 20 to 30, maybe 20 to 30 today. And then ribs will go through as many as we have in stock, which is probably 60 to 100.
Dang.
Yeah.
So
we try to, on our slow weeks, we'll go through 200 to 300 pounds of meat a day.
Wow.
On our slow days,
Still.
But then on our busy days, it's 700 to 1,000 pounds of meat.
Wow. So are you just cooking, throwing your meat on, mopping and pulling it, no wrapping, or you just? Yeah.
So we go unwrap the entire time, no water pan, and the hot and fast. If you have particularly prime beef, in comparison to your choice or your select stuff, has a lower melt rate for the fat, and so you can cook it hot and fast and sort of melt really quickly. So for all of the fat to melt through the meat, it's much faster, and so we don't have to necessarily. The most important thing when you're cooking hot and fast is the outside. Make sure you're not drying it out, and the bark is still soft and tasty, where it's not more like char versus it being real bark.
So you're a fat side up, fat side down kind of guy?
On the stick burner, because it doesn't flow under the grates, we flip on that one, so it always starts fat side down, and then about 40% of the way through we flip it and we finish off fat side up. But on our big reverse flow, no, it's fat side up only.
Okay.
Meat side up, bone side down. And we just flow that thing really quickly.
So we focused a lot on the brisket cook. Let's talk a little bit about a rib cook on a stick burner, because when I think of a stick burner, I think of brisket. I think of a low and slow, tending my fire for 13 hours, pulling that thing off when the bark is nice and crispy and good, and that's it. You don't really think too much about, let's say, a rib, or
right.
a pork butt. Pork butt would be very similar, but I would say let's talk about the ribs. How you doing that on a stick burner?
So on our current stick burner, we start meat side down, get the bones right where they are just the perfect color, and then we mop, flip.
And so when you're looking at it, you say 5 hours. Are you kind of temping it at a certain temperature, or are you saying, or look, 5 hours, or whatever it is with the meat?
Yeah.
Are you that's done because I just feel it?
Oh no, I pick my meat up and just lay it over, especially my ribs, just lay it over my hand, make sure they bend. And if they bend and they crack, we're good.
And it's the same with your ribs, just when they
with the ribs, my brisket will poke the fat, and if our finger can go through, just like your pork butts too, we pull it. We have 190. So for our briskets, we pull at between 187 and 192. So we give ourselves that small range. Ribs, I don't even know a temp. I've never got a temp on my ribs ever. And then pork butts are 203.
A 203?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of people pull at 195.
Never, man. That stuff's tough.
How do you rip that apart at 195?
Yeah, man. And people think that the temperature is going to rise at 7-8 degrees to make up, and it won't.
No, I've wrapped mine, kept it in my tin foil and put it in my Cambro, and it stayed put. That's still hard as hell to cut it and to shred it.
Yeah.
Right. And I see a lot of restaurants on the production side, they are pulling a little early because they know they're to hold all day long. Yeah. Which you're a little bit different. You're like, we're out of brisket. We're out of brisket. Let's get the next batch rolling.
Absolutely. So when we go on and we run out of brisket or ribs, it's a lot of the time when we're running out, it's because some of the time didn't expect the demand that was coming that day. Like there was one time about a month and a half ago, there was a guy by the name of Robbie on Twitter. He had came through and one night and had posted us about something, and we went viral like crazy. And so for like 16, 17 days straight, we sold out every single day, and we couldn't keep up because people were just coming nonstop, all hours of the night, nonstop. Like it was nonstop crazy. It was pretty crazy.
That's a good thing for you, though.
No,
right?
It was good, but man, it's challenging for me, as I guess the guy behind the plan. I don't like selling out all the time. I try to make sure I can feed everybody, but sometimes you can't control it because you can only cook so much, and time is a huge factor to that.
Yeah, and see, I come from a restaurant management background, especially within kitchens, and food costs are a big part of that. And so, and keeping, because you're balancing you're between a fine line there. You're trying food costs and trying to feed the people and keeping stock, but you don't want to waste too much. So when you're getting blasted and you have 5 hours to cook a brisket and you're almost out, you just put it on and that's it, right?
That's it, man. You have to, and another thing too with where we do manufacturing and wholesaling, our main business is catering and the others, not so much the front end deli. And so everything excess comes to the deli. So if we say, well, there's, another 15, 20, 30 briskets over than what we were cooking, but that was in the very beginning to where we were just using scraps as far as the brisket, pork, and ribs. And now we've dedicated a good portion because there's a consistent flow, of brisket, the other three. And chicken is a hit or miss, and but we keep that on too. But most of the time with chicken, we're taking all of the excess from all of our caterings and stuff to cook that because it's not as large in demand as brisket and the ribs and stuff.
Right. So for being a 24-hour place, obviously you're not the only pit master, right?
Right. Yeah. No, there's Kevin, and then we have David, who's trained there, and same with Tanya and Lee, and we have a few.
So were they just curious? So when you brought on staff like that, did you have to train them exactly how you wanted that pit to run every time? And
every time, yeah. So the training of the pit was probably the most challenging piece to my business when we first started. It was because the thing is it takes time. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't just go out there and just think you're going to learn a pit. Why do you think there's so many amateurs and so many? But even the pros, you talk to pros, like, I've been doing it 20-something years. I've been doing it 26 years. Since I was a youngster. And I'm like, man, stuff is rough. Especially by the new guys. You're teaching the new guys, and you're like, well, so you flip the wood like this? Nah, man. You every 45 minutes you're sliding it, and you flip your meat, and you mop like this. It's just the process, and the hardest part is those dampers. Teaching them how to. Most of the time, we have our damper set, and we just have the intake where we open it or close it, but the exit damper is always the same. It stays in place.
It's interesting when you do something for so long and you're trying to teach a new person, and it's just, you forget how much you know.
Man.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
You're just like, how do you don't know that? Oh, yeah, well, probably not.
Right. A lot of people.
All the details.
Oh, absolutely. It's the details. A lot of the people that work here, like Kevin, he's from Upper Michigan. And the thing that I knew about Kevin was like, man, this guy told me, he said, I can start a fire. Like, it's nothing. And so I was like, well, you can start a fire, then you can run a pit, because if you can fire management and airflow is one of the biggest pieces to running a pit, in addition to, making sure your temperatures are right. But airflow and fire management.
So going back to the, starting me personally, I've always been I grew up around smoke, but it was always an electric smoker. We grew up smoking venison, and, our family are big hunters. So I've actually never, like I said, used a stick burner before. And, it's intimidating. Like I said yesterday, it's an intimidating thing. So what kind of advice would you give someone how to kind of ease their mind? Is it that bad? What people think,
Yeah, stick burners. I think the best advice I can give is just practice makes perfect. Man, if you don't practice with a stick burner, I don't care how good you are, you will never know how to use it. Mm-hmm. It's not as simple as a Traeger or a Yoder or even some of your, like a Myron Mixon smoker is a charcoal wood pit, but it's insulated and it's pretty automated. If you add a barbecue guru to it, it becomes just like a Traeger,
So could it be that? I mean, could it be as easy as a Traeger if you get to know it? And how long on average did it take? How long do these guys you're training, how long is it taking to kind of pick up on it?
So we've been here for 22 weeks, and Kevin's been with me for about 16 weeks, and it took him about a week and a half, 2 weeks, but it was every single day, all day long is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. It's learning about my meat and learning about my pits and how they run.
So as a new person coming into an offset, would you recommend them starting a fire, no meat, learn how that pit flows, how to turn
absolutely,
it up and down, left and right,
Yeah, one of the things we like to do too is it's very similar when you get a new pit to season that pit, you burn it out for hours and hours and hours. And we'll do the same thing. First thing we take them through when we are doing the learning about the pits is we teach them how to clean the pits. So then you really have to get in there and really learn like what the heck you got to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Kind of the anatomy of it.
Yeah. So then you get in, you clean, and you learn like, hey, okay, well, this, and this grate goes here, or that grate goes there. But once they clean the pit and go through cleaning the pit, we then teach them how to start a clean fire and how to keep the fire moving. Make sure you're emptying your ash so it doesn't restrict airflow. And then after then we throw our meat on, and the meat is where, people like to open the lid, and Franklin, he says it best, if you looking, you ain't cooking. Right.
Correct.
That's his thing that he says. If you're looking, you're not cooking. And it's a true statement. So if you're looking at your meat and you're 45 minutes in, why are you looking at your meat?
Yeah, I think it's, for me, I want to get a stick burner. It's not that I I'm afraid of it. Well, I am intimidated by it. I'm not afraid of it. Just my wife won't let me get one. But when I do, I cannot wait to get started on that.
Well, you know, I can anytime. I'm here 24/7.
Well, how much is it?
Okay, I'll have to come over here.
How
Hang
much
out with you for a while.
How much is the transition from an offset, or I guess I should say from a drum to an offset? Is there?
Yeah. So how much as far as monetary
Exactly.
cost? Yeah. So a drum, you can build a drum as a little list, $300, and then you go up to your offset. You can get a small offset at even Home Depot for $300 to $500, and as high as you get your nice higher end ones for like $900 to $1,000. And then when you get into stick burners, most stick burners, if you want a real one that works really good for you, has to be custom. And custom stick burners start anywhere from 10 to 20,000.
Oh,
Got to get that on the Jambo list, right?
yeah, get on the Jambo
Get on the Jambo list.
We have like a few months and that's over.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges you had opening a barbecue restaurant? I know, like I said, I've worked in restaurant business my whole life, but in steakhouses and stuff, but this is a whole new monster. Like what kind of stuff did you go through opening a barbecue restaurant?
The most challenging is like fees in the city and the county and licenses. Like that is, whoa, I'm telling you, it's on a different level. Like, in order to open the store itself, for anybody to open a retail store or a restaurant, there's a lot of things on the checklist you got to clear off. It has to be clean, and obviously all refrigeration has to work, all lights have to work, just little things. But I would say that was probably the most challenging to get this going, is the licensing and all that. Because South Salt Lake, too, is where we are a much different barbecue place, where the other guys use gas-assisted or electric-assisted pits. We use straight wood outside in the elements, rain, sleet, snow, hail. It does not matter. It can be negative 40 degrees outside. We got some heat source right there, and we're going to be out there cooking, And so it's a new dynamic for the city to take on, to really understand how we do business versus like Pat's and the other guys.
So is the health inspector down here checking out your equipment often, or
our health inspector loves us. They said, man, you guys have the cleanest kitchen, and we're a barbecue place. Like, you walk through my kitchen, it is clean.
Actually, that's true. I've been to a lot of barbecue places. This is one of the cleaner ones I've seen.
Yeah, so. It is really, I am anal about having clean stuff. Like if it's not clean, like I lose everything. I lose my mind.
Like even your pits outside.
Yeah.
They were nice. I mean, of course, they're pits being used all the time, but for pits being used all the time.
Yeah, 24/7. My pits, we keep them. We maintenance our pits every single day, all day long.
Where did the decision come from to keep a 24-hour barbecue restaurant?
Yeah, when I look at traditional true barbecue, as you guys know, you guys are on the competition circuit. Mm-hmm. To get that pit to up to temp, they have to continually restart it, whether it's at 2 a.m. or or all night long. It takes a lot of fuel to get started, especially that big one we have. We can fit in there at one time 40 briskets, all at one time. And to get that thing up to temp, it takes 3 22-inch logs just to start it, and then additional 2 to then get the smoke going and everything. So it's 5 logs to get the entire thing started up to temp. If I were to do that every single time, I'm using 5 logs versus adding 1 every 45 minutes. We just keep it going, and I say, well, if we don't stop, then we can produce a lot more meat.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I watched a small documentary about Franklin's Barbecue, and he has a night shift, and that's all their job is to do is get ready for the next day. That pit doesn't stop.
Never stops.
It's going to cost you $80 minimum just to get it rolling again after everything cools down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's something you have to look into, I guess, as a business owner. Is like, if I shut it down, which you do weekly, it's a big initial cost to start it back up.
Oh, absolutely. I always hate having to start the big one up because it's going to suck so much wood. Like literally we can clear a pallet of wood on the big one in like 3 days. So a half a quart in 3 days on just the one pit, not including the other small one. But we can clear a half a quart a day. I'm sorry, in 3 days on just that one. And that's from starting. But once it's going, man, I'm telling you, that's when we get our 4-hour briskets, our 2-hour ribs, our 1.5 to hour chickens, and man, it's a really nice. And
we just came in here randomly yesterday, man. We sat down and had some food, and it was juicy. Like that cooked perfectly.
And that's one thing that we did discover here is you have burn ends on
Yeah, get all times.
Ready to go. Anywhere else, you can't really find a burn in. You know, like you brought up Pat's, he only has them on Fridays.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have burn ins here with your menu all day long.
All day long. You know, the thing is, it's to give everybody, my goal with my business is whatever the people ask for, they get. That's it. No question. So if they say, well, we want tri-tip, that's why we offer tri-tip. You know, we don't offer tri-tip every Tuesday as we used to because our client doesn't buy it as much. But the thing is, if the demand then requires it, then we'll bring back tri-tip. Same with lamb, same with the others, you know. But whatever the customer demands is what we do.
Is that where the Kool-Aid came from?
Well, you know, the Kool-Aid's my little thing. I'm like, man, you're in the South.
That's like the best idea we've ever seen.
You have 3 igloo coolers over there: red drink, water, and blue drink.
Yeah, man. You know, you mix your blue and your red. You know, people say, well, you ain't got no purple drink. Yeah, you mix the blue and the red, it's now purple. So you got 3 drinks in one. You know, there's 3. You know, you got your red, your blue, and then your purple, and you obviously got water.
So you use prime briskets, and you were talking about getting some from Australia?
Yeah, so we'll bring in, so we have our 9+ that we have our ribeye, our strip loin and tenderloin as well. And that's sold out of the butcher shop, but we sell, we'll have later today actually, our MS8 brisket, Wagyu. We sell that for $5 an ounce, $80 a pound cooked. And it's on discount right now. Whenever it comes out of the butcher shop, it's $180 a pound. But when we run specials on Saturdays for brisket for the customers, it's, you know, we try to make it affordable so everybody can try it. And most people just come through and get a slice or 2.
So the big difference between that A8 and then just your prime brisket you can get wherever?
Well, I can cook a MS8 brisket in 2.5 hours. You know, as I said, the melt rate on the fat is much faster and the temperature is much lower than on a prime. You know, prime, the reason we're able to cook those in 4 hours, 5 hours, is because of the fat, the marbling.
Nice. So when you threw your first one on the grill, were you like, oh man,
I was
here we
so
go?
scared. Oh my gosh, bro, it's just so much money. You know, a lot of people think like, oh, well, you know, Wagyu brisket, 100% Kobe beef, that stuff is, it's different in itself. You know, those cows are raised to just sit in one spot. They don't move. They're just there sitting in there. You go to the restroom and come back and sit down, and they're doing this for 500 to 600 days. That's why the meat's so tender. You know, the more an animal moves, the tougher the meat gets. You know, the fat gets tougher and everything, but these cows are just chilling there and getting rubbed on and massaged, and that's it.
Fatted up.
Yeah, getting fat, man.
Well, the Japanese Wagyu, too, they literally go out there and give them a massage every day, give them a beer.
Yeah, well, they
you know, they're like
Japanese barley. Japanese barley is the diet that our cows go on before they come over to the United States. You know, they have a Japanese barley diet, which is essentially Japanese beer, and that's what Nick Schur out of Victoria. 91, he went over to Japan and took 2 embryos. He had good friends over in Japan. Took 2 embryos, took them over to Australia, where he's from, and started, and now has the largest. He's the largest Wagyu exporter in the world.
Jeez.
And so we're one of 4 that sell his meat in the United States.
One of 4. Who are the other 3? Just curious.
So there's another one, De Braga out of New York. There's another one in Colorado. I don't really know. There's small time guys too, but De Braga is the main one here in the United States. Those guys are online. They're New York's butcher is what they're called, you know. But De Braga, they sell really high end. They have higher end beef than even that. That's not Schur Wagyu or Australian. That's more Japanese. And then they also sell the high end pork too.
Yeah, so when you get in something like that, you randomly just get it, and that's the brisket you're serving today, or is there an option? Like, would you like to have the good one, or would you like to have
No, so when we have that, it's a second option to our normal brisket. Like, you want regular brisket, you can get that. You know, you want your prime, you can get that. But when we offer the Wagyu, we do offer to every single customer that comes in, because a lot of people have never tried Wagyu beef. You know, it's not something, you know, at our highest grade is $240 a pound. Not everybody's eating $240 a pound worth of beef every day, you know, $240 worth of beef. But we do offer it to every single person. And one slice is about an ounce, so it's about $5. But it's a different type of beef. You know, you guys have probably eaten Wagyu, and a lot of the stuff that people are used to in the United States is the American Wagyu through Snake River, you know, out of Idaho. Mm-hmm. It's a higher graded beef than what they have. You know, our beef is much sweeter. doesn't have any hormones. It's 100% halal certified. So I have a bunch of Muslim friends that obviously they don't eat pork. And if it's not halal, they won't eat it. And so all of everything that we import from Australia comes overseas halal certified. But when it gets off the boat, it's here, and we pick it up in LA.
Wow.
Nice. And then how often do you have that here at the restaurant?
So we have Wagyu right now in the back in the walk-in. Yeah.
Okay, so it's ready to go anytime.
It's ready to go, yeah. The thing is, it depends, like for the butcher shop, our butcher shop is appointment only. And so it's appointment only, so we're able to prepare and make sure we have everything that's being sold at the appointment. So if we have a 9+ ribeye, we'll set the appointment. It's an hour long. And a lot of people ask, like, why so long for an appointment for a butcher? If you don't know how to cook Wagyu, unless you're an executive chef or you got deep pockets like that and you're cooking Wagyu on a daily, you're not going to really understand how to cook Wagyu.
That's actually a great feature to be able to sit down with your butcher. Rusty's been trying to ask this question on how do you talk to a butcher, but if you're giving them an hour appointment only, that is definitely going to help the person that's been cooking Wagyu or the newbie that wants to try.
Correct.
And is nervous.
Absolutely.
Because it's expensive.
It's a very expensive meat for sure. And it's something that when we cooked our first one, we put it on, we just cut them really thin. We cooked some ribeye and we threw it on the pit. And it was 15 minutes and it was completely cooked all the way. Completely.
Oh, man.
And man, let me tell you. Oh my God.
I've never had a well-done steak so good in my life.
Yeah, man, that steak right there was delicious. They call that butter steak, as you call it. They call Wagyu, it's that butter stuff.
Don't even need a knife.
No, bro, you don't even need teeth. You know what I mean? You need straight gums to eat that stuff raw or cooked.
So when you go, that's a good, because when I first cooked my first Wagyu brisket, I was so nervous putting that on. So I think that's cool. So it's a unique experience. So that's what you're doing when you're having, so let's say for the locals here and they want to get some good meat and they want to cook it and they want to come through your butcher shop. What's that process like? So
here when you come in, we have a number you can text. It's 801-512-7705. You text there, letting the butcher know, which is me, what you want to do. I want to next week. Do you have any availability at whatever time? I look at the schedule. If there's availability, they come in. And we set up everything, and it's only for them. So if there's any other part of the shack they want to buy from, it's exclusive. They're able to do that from the same line, so they don't have to wait in line. If you're coming in, you're a high roller, I guess you can call it that, and you're dropping some money on some meat, you get to skip in front of everybody who's ever in the line. So if there's a 20-person line and you come up and you got an appointment scheduled, and you need some brisket or some ribs, jump right over into the front of the line. And you actually check out the same spot at the butcher shop instead of having to go through the line of checking out at the self-checkout here in the deli.
Nice.
So do you ship for the people that are within the surrounding area that don't have access to that? Yeah,
so I ship worldwide. I ship I have clients in China. I have clients in Alaska, Arizona, Nevada, California, Florida, Georgia. And that's what's crazy, it blows my mind, is whether it's barbecue or whether it's raw meat, I got people from Georgia hitting me up and same down in Florida for barbecue, and it just blows my mind because barbecue is everywhere down there. But they say, hey, I got a party, to feed 40 people, and we vacuum pack and ship it all the way down.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Yeah. And what your place is unique for one, the butcher shop, the soul food, barbecue. And I also seen just recently on your Facebook, you're going to start delivering from
be delivering
from Utah County to Davis County.
Yeah, that's where we'll be. Amazing. Right there at Draper. We'll probably jump over into Lehigh every now and then if people want it. Which there will be enough demand there, but we'll jump over into Lehigh in the meantime. We'll go all the way up to Bountiful.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll go up to Bountiful. We also go out as far as Magna right now, all the way to, I'd just say the East Bench, Wasatch Boulevard, Olympus Cove.
And this is a 24-hour delivery service as well.
24 hours. And we don't use no Grubhub, no Uber Eats. It's all Benji's Barbecue Shack. We show up in our cars and we deliver.
Like 4 a.m., Rusty, you don't want to get out of bed, but you want some brisket. Guess what? Benji's going to be there for you.
Yeah, I'll be right there at your doorstep.
20 years ago, let's get some Funyuns. Let's get Benji's, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime. We're Sunday, Saturday, rain, sleet, snow, holidays, we're going to be open. This location will be open Thanksgiving Day as well. Just as it would. So if people are wanting to come in, not really spend Thanksgiving at home, they can come here and eat too.
Oh, nice. And do you do anything special for Thanksgiving, like turkeys or anything like that?
Yeah, so in the next week, we'll be launching our Thanksgiving Christmas promo. Because we're closed on Christmas, we'll be able to prepackage all of our meals and then just give heating instructions on how to do everything.
Which is awesome. I've been doing it a long time, putting him in just Ziploc bags, but then I got the vacuum seal.
Oh yeah,
I stick it in boiling water for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I pull that out, and that's just like I got it on the plate.
Yeah.
That's the best reheating idea ever. For anybody that's new to barbecue and you have that half flat of brisket left over, slice it, vacuum seal it, put it in your freezer, and literally throw it into boiling water.
Yeah, for 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes.
If it's frozen, you want to give it a little longer, but then boom, it's coming out just like it came off the smoker.
Right off the pit. It's that's when we as wholesalers, when we sell to our clients and our restaurants and bars or even national and international clients, it's the exact same process. We ship it 3 minutes in boiling water, never frozen. We'll freeze it for transport, but once it gets there, you need to make sure you thaw it in the fridge, and then from there, it's 3 minutes in boiling water. Comes out just like it came off the pit.
Yeah, it's really good. So where can people find you?
They can find me either online, Instagram, I'm there. Benji's Barbecue Shack, Benji's BBQ Shack. Facebook, the same. Twitter, www.benjisbarbecueshack.com. And then our address, 3245 South State Street, Salt Lake City. Right behind the Century 16 on State.
Awesome. So catch a movie and get some barbecue.
Yeah, catch a movie. We'll be here. You come out, you'll be smelling this for sure.
That's actually a good idea. Joker's out right now. We can just get some brisket,
head over there.
Yeah, go smell up that movie theater instead of nachos and popcorn.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I waited a whole week and a half here for the first Star Wars, so.
Oh man, that's freaking cool.
I'm that guy. All right, well, man, we appreciate you letting us come over and hang out with you. This has been a lot of fun.
No, fellas, I appreciate you guys having me, man. Thank you for letting me on the show and at least speak some knowledge on some barbecue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Yep. Bye-bye. All right, man. Benji, man, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, you just texted me yesterday, said, come on, let's go to Benji's. I'd never been there. Came in, we got this plate just honking full of meat. You can probably see the pictures on our Instagram.
Yeah.
And, man, it was good stuff. So got to talking to the guy. And he's just a good dude. It was fun to talk to. Showed us around, showed us the pits, started talking to us about barbecue. Like, hey, man, get you on the podcast and stuff. And it was really cool talking to him. He's got a lot of knowledge of the history of barbecue and the meat itself. And we chatted all sorts of meats yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it was awesome.
But anyway, guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Pitmasters Podcast. You can find us, as always, on Instagram, Facebook. We're up on YouTube now. This one we're here live, so when we're back in the studio, you'll see a little bit better.
Yeah,
we're getting better.
Also, the places where you can listen to the podcast too. We got Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, yes.
I think that's it right now. Google Play
and Google Play, yes.
Obviously, yeah. So and subscribe, guys. A lot of you have. We do appreciate everyone's support for us. I mean, it's been really cool to see all the people listening to the podcast and all the interest in right away. So we do appreciate you. Just subscribe, tell your friends, tell your barbecue friends.
Yep.
And we'll keep bringing some good content. And you guys ever want to hear something in particular or a certain subject, just let us know. And you can get a hold of us on any one of those platforms. And we do appreciate you. And we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.